All right, good morning and welcome to today's bi-weekly webinar. And today we are talking all things college planning, 529 plans specifically. We're a day early, but we always want to be early in the planning rather than later in the planning, because tomorrow is actually, if you look at the dates, May 29th, which is 529. See what we did there. So yes, what we're talking about though is all things college planning today. And we have a lot of experts here. We have our team here who's going to talk about the different aspects of 529 plans, how to fund them, what to do, when to get money in there, how do we use them, what happens if we don't use them all, what happens if we're a little short, other ways to save money. There's going to be an idea here, probably a good amount of ideas today that are going to hopefully spark up some interest, hopefully spark up some questions in your own planning that you're doing. And of course, whatever those things that you're thinking about, we would love to help you out. If you have questions, reach out to us. We'll walk you through step by step based on your scenario, how to best do this. Today is about 529 plans. Some families want to save money for their children for college planning, just not sure exactly how to do it, where to do it, and when to do it. And so hopefully this will talk a little bit about one of those pieces, which is the 529 plans, which is a college savings plan. So one of the team members here will explain exactly what a 529 plan is. We'll start off with step one, and then we'll get into step two and step three. So we want to welcome you. Thanks for taking time out of your day. We are almost here in June, which is unbelievable to say. For those grandparents and parents out there, there's only like 1 or 2 weeks left of school, and then it feels like summer officially starts. So we have that whole thing going on. And then we, of course, have the events that Lisa will talk about later on today, where we get to see a lot of you for some of our summer events, which we love those pieces, and we love to see you and to see your families as well. So as you know, we like to go big. We like to begin in gratitude, get our minds in the right spot, to focus on the positivity rather than the negativity. Some of the negative things can be the cost of college planning, but we're going to focus on how to thwart that and be positive about it today. So let's go big, begin in gratitude. Zach, how about yourself?
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Always a lot to be grateful for. This last weekend, on Memorial Day weekend, I had the opportunity to go back home and spend some time with what I call my brothers by life, not by blood, but they became brothers to me by life. And just to watch them navigate being fathers and husbands has just been such a great joy of knowing each other for the last 15, 20 years, and then watching them progress through life has been a big honor, and also just an extreme amount of gratitude for the people that have paid the ultimate sacrifice for our country. Downtown Milwaukee had about 27,000 American flags set up in Veterans Park, and it was just a beautiful day to walk with my family down there and remember those who have given it all for our country.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. Very much a gorgeous and glorious day, that's for sure. So, Ashley, how about yourself?
Thank you, Ken. I am just grateful for continuing on that path. Memorial Day weekend, some extra time with family and friends, celebrating birthdays, and then also just remembering the true reason why Monday exists, and that is to thank all of those have served and sacrificed for our country and are still working, fighting for our country today. So, thank you.
Ashley, well said. Thank you very much. Mike Mann, how about yourself?
Thanks, Ken. Grateful for my mom. She is actually, so Sabrina and I are traveling for a wedding starting tomorrow for through the weekend, and we have a little pup here who needs watching, and we are flying my mom out. She's donating her time to spend time with Akira and just watch her for that weekend for us. And so I am so grateful for her taking days of vacation to do this for us. It's wonderful. So looking forward to seeing her. It's always fun to show her around DC a little bit for the little bit of time we'll be able to spend together. But yeah, really grateful for her.
Sounds like you have a good support system, Mike. That's always good to hear. Michael Birschbach.
Thank you, Ken. Mine is also for Memorial Day weekend and the extra day to check some things off the to-do list, but actually got the opportunity to spend some time with a friend of mine who served and kind of opened up and shared his perspective when he spent time actually overseas in combat. So just grateful for all those who had served, who are serving and have served, and just want to thank them for their sacrifice as well.
Well said, Michael. Thank you for that. We appreciate that. And Lisa Sheridan, how about yourself?
Hi, thank you, Ken. Hi, good morning, everybody. So I'm actually grateful we're covering the 529. I'm actually grateful that I don't have to deal with that anymore. My daughter graduated a couple of years ago, so we dealt with that. So definitely pay attention to this when you're planning for that, because it's a lot to go through as a parent as well as the child doing it. So I'm also grateful my fiance turns 60 this weekend, so we're planning on doing some events. I have another long weekend coming up for that, so it's crazy that we're as old as old people now. So
We're as old people. There. That's well said, Lisa. Okay, everyone that's listening to this, write that one down. That one might be a good one there. So for sure. Well, thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you sharing there as well. And yeah, lots to be grateful for. And today we're going to talk about, like I said, college plans right now. And I saw this joke to kind of start things off. And sometimes we talk about college planning, we talk about scholarships, FAFSA, all these things come into play when we think about college. Emotional side, sending those babies off to college, and we don't get to see them as much as we used to. But there's a lot of stuff going on. We're talking about the financial side. There are plenty of things to talk about on the emotional side as well, as far as college planning, all the tours that go involved with that, checking out the campuses, what's going to be the great fit for your family member, and why, right? So but we try to get scholarships in all this as well. And I read this one. Scholarships are like, well, to get one, write a 10-page essay, solve world peace, volunteer in 3 countries, and be allergic to air. And that's all for $200. But you know what? Every dollar counts in this process. The earlier we start, the better off we're going to be. Even if we didn't do it right away, there's still ways to catch up. There's still ways to fund these plans. And so Mike Mann, I'm going to bring him on first. Mike, can you describe to us what a 529 plan actually is? And then what are some of the features that you're going to talk about them, please?
Sure. All right. Well, I'm going to rattle a whole bunch of stuff off. So if you have any questions after the fact, please feel free to reach out. But basically, a 529 plan is a college savings plan that you're able to put money into, allow that money to grow without taxes, right? No capital gains tax on the growth. And then when you use it for qualified education expenses come college time, or you can do it sometimes for private school, depending on what state you're in. That money comes out free of income tax and capital gain tax. So that is the big benefit, right? That tax-free growth. It's very similar to when we're doing the contributions for retirement, things like that. We want to maximize these kind of opportunities. That's something that a 529 plan can do. One of the biggest questions we get about it, though, is what happens if our kids don't go to college? Well, the answer to that specifically would be that you can do a few different things with the plan itself. You can change beneficiaries at any time. You can shift it to being maybe a future grandchild if your child doesn't go to school, or another child who decides to go to school maybe out of state, somewhere with more expensive tuition, something that you can support them on. You are still the owner of the 529 plan. It is a gift to the beneficiary when you contribute to it, but you can change that beneficiary at any given time in the future. So that being said, you can shift the beneficiary. The other thing that you can do is that you can take some of that money. Now, this is new since the Secure Act 2.0, and we should stop saying that that's so new because it's a few years old at this point in time. But you can actually contribute now to a Roth IRA on behalf of your child once they start their working career. And you can do up to the annual contribution limit, which currently being $7,000. You can do up to $35,000 of a 529 plan over the course of years in $7,000 increments maximum to hit that $35,000 mark to your child once they start working. So that's another pretty good benefit. Something to keep in mind, though, for that benefit is that your child does have to be the beneficiary of the plan for 15 years. I shouldn't keep saying your child, though. Whoever the beneficiary is has to do it for 15 years. You can open up a 529 plan for anyone. You could open it up for your neighbor's kid if you would really like to, or anyone specifically, right? You can even open up one for yourself. And sometimes that might actually make sense, even if you're not going to school, but if you have student loans. So something that 529 plans do qualify for is a state tax deduction. In the state of Wisconsin specifically, and you'd have to check which state you're in for how it works because it's all different. For each beneficiary that you contribute to a 529 plan of, you can deduct up to $5,130 per beneficiary. It's a wonderful little benefit to be able to knock out some of that state income tax. Now, If you're the beneficiary of the 529 plan, that still counts. So you can get a state deduction, and then something that you can do after keeping that money in the plan for a couple of years, you can actually take $10,000 of a 529 plan and pay off student loans with it. So that's some new stuff that you can do with it as well. There is just a mountain of opportunity with a 529 plan specifically that doesn't have to be thought of just college savings. It's something that's great planning long term. Now, the last thing I'm going to bring up here, Ken, because I know I've exceeded my minute and we're getting to the minutes portion of the presentation here, is the amount that you can put in on an annual basis. Now, some of this might be above and beyond what you're planning to. It's going to be above and beyond that state contribution limit. But you can put in a total of the gift tax amount for that current year to a 529 plan. So right now you could do $19,000 per single individual to a beneficiary, $38,000 as a married couple, or you can what's called a super funding of the 529 plan in that first year. You can do up to 5 years of a single annual exclusion. So right now you can do $95,000 in one go of it to a 529 plan without any estate tax issue. Something to think about if you want to do a 529 plan and you also want to give to your child on the outside of this. Now, this is going to be those who are giving a lot of money, right, to their kids or to the beneficiary of who that may be. You may want to consider not using a 529 plan in that regard, because you can actually pay the college tuition directly without any gift tax. So that's going to be specific scenarios. We bring it up because if it applies to you, please think about it. Please ask us if we notice it applies to you when we have these conversations in our meetings. We'll absolutely bring up these strategies. So I know that was a lot. Thanks, Ken. That's all I got for now.
Mike's couple minutes. That was really good. Thank you very much. Mike went into some really strong detail there on the plans, which is really helpful. Sometimes, yeah, super funding is an option. Sometimes we even start a little smaller than that just to get things going based on our needs and what our budget allows. I mean, some of these plans that get started, there's a lot of competing needs inside of a family. So sometimes it's super funded. Sometimes it's, hey, we start small but sure. But all of a sudden, then we get to a point where we're like, wow, this is really growing really nicely over the years. So I think Michael Birschbach is going to touch a little bit more on that piece there. There's also a couple different philosophies that are out there too. So we're talking about helping kids, grandkids, family members really help fund college. There's some philosophies out there that differ, and you know what? None of them are wrong. And it's really about how you and your family view this idea of college planning. Some families say, hey, if we're in a position where we can help them out and we can totally fund college and they come out with no student debt, wow, holy cow, they really get a chance to really start growing right away rather than having to pay off student debt. Now, to the flip side of that, some families say, you know what, we need skin in the game to make sure that this all works out. So we don't necessarily want to fully fund college, but we also want to have some there to help out. But there's also this meeting in the middle type of thing where the student needs to do something, the parents or grandparents want to do something, and all of a sudden you have this balancing act going on with college funding. So there's lots of philosophies, and it's up to you and your family. Our job and our goal is to learn your philosophy, learn what you're looking to accomplish, and help you craft a plan that best accomplishes that. And that's what we're all about here, and we'll be able to guide you through that piece. With that being said, let's switch some gears here. Let's go over to Zach. Zach's going to talk about the markets a little bit and also some of the pieces of the one big beautiful bill that's right now, I believe, up for vote. Zach.
Yeah, thank you, Ken. Really appreciate it. And before I go into markets and an idea that was found in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act that could change how we view 529s, just wanted to touch on a few 529 questions that we've received before, which is if parents and grandparents are working on funding education together, should they just have one large 529 for multiple children and grandchildren, or should they have it separated out? We found that it's a little bit simpler to track if they're separated out per beneficiary, even though as Mike mentioned, you can change the beneficiary as many times as you want. One thing to note is that if child one or grandchild one ends up using a majority of it, it'll be very, very hard to allocate how much went to one child or grandchild versus the other. And also it gets a lot harder to invest that way as well, because you can be a little bit more aggressive with the younger grandchildren's accounts versus one that may be closer to school. So generally speaking, it's better to have a different 529 per child. And one thing that Mike mentioned, just wanted to touch on as well, is if you were to open a 529 for a non-family family member. You just have to be a little bit careful because it has to stay within that person's bloodline. As an example, if I were to open an account for one of those brothers by life I mentioned in my gratitude, I would have to keep it within his bloodline. I wouldn't just be able to automatically change it to my own. So just something to be aware of. And also the rules changed when a grandparent owns a 529. Previously, when a distribution came from a grandparent-owned 529 plan, it would count as income, which would negatively impact financial aid, whereas in 2024 and 2025, the rules changed where it no longer is the case. So working together with parents and grandparents is an extremely good strategy. Just wanted to touch on those regarding 529s, and just to keep consistency of our bi-weekly webinars, just wanted to kind of share where markets are at as well. Just switching gears just for a second. About 90% of companies have reported earnings for this quarter, and about 80% of them actually exceeded earnings. And Mike shared with me yesterday that that's actually fairly standard for earnings reports. So great to see that companies are exceeding their expected earnings. The Dow Jones is actually almost flat for the year now, which is a 5% increase since the middle of April. The S&P 500 is actually positive now as of market open this morning, which is a 10% increase since the middle of April. The NASDAQ is temporarily still just slightly negative, only a 0.5% down, but a 15% increase since the middle of April. So really an amazing recovery over the last month. The Russell 2000 is the asset class that's struggling the most. That's those smaller sized companies, temporarily down about 6% on the year. Those are a little bit more sensitive to changes like tariffs, interest rates, et cetera, like we've seen over the last few years, but still a 10% bounce back since the middle of April there as well. The two best performing asset classes were actually two of the worst performing asset classes for the last 4 to 5 years. International is actually up 15%, which is a 10% increase since the middle of April as well. So it just shows the major benefit of asset allocation, diversification, and rebalancing into those asset classes when those are actually underperforming, because you sold high off of ones that were doing well, bought low on something that wasn't doing as well, and your strategy has seen a big benefit from that to start the year. Emerging markets is the second best performing asset class, which is up actually 8% since the start of the year. The one idea that I wanted to share in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, that if you guys have been watching the news, hopefully you're not, but you may have heard that the new tax reform actually just passed through the House, and we digested some of that. It still has to go through the Senate. There's a lot of updates that are probably going to come from that. But in regards to college planning, a major one that we wanted to touch on and share about and kind of get ahead on is something called a MAGA account, M-A-G-A. It is not mistaken for the moniker of Make America Great Again, but rather money accounts for growth and advancement. When we were reading through this, we're like, what is this? This could be very, very interesting for children or grandchildren. So the idea behind it is creating another way to save for children and grandchildren. Historically, if it's for college, it's 529. If it's something that you want to have ownership of someday, it's a UTMA account. But this is actually would be completely separate. And for a child from age 0 to 8 years old, you can put $5,000 away into it. As of right now, it reads that they don't need earned income. So essentially for a child from 0 to 8, you could have $40,000 saved. It's after tax, and it reads right now that it would be tax-free as well. So this could really come into play for college planning, for gifting to kids or grandchildren. There's a lot of unknowns, and if a child is born between 2025 and 2029, there may be a government match of $1,000 as well. So that's something that we're watching very, very closely. A lot of changes could be updated to it, but could be a huge portion of college planning and also legacy and inheritance planning as well. So with that, Ken, I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, very good, Zach. So things that are coming to possibly be here. So as those tax laws change and get updated, we will certainly bring you all the details and how does that fit into the planning that we're trying to do with you as well. So we'll navigate that together as well. So one thing that came up here recently, Zach was talking about the markets. Easy for me to say, right? Zach was talking about the markets a little bit. It reminds me a little bit of the allocations that you have in your 529 plan. So if you have an existing one, now is a good time to be looking at that and evaluating, okay, when is my child or grandchild going to be going to school? Okay, if it's soon, then we want to take a look at the risk we're taking inside of those, right? Because the closer we need the money, the less risk we should be taking. Now, it also brings up the question of, okay, when are we going to use the 529 plan? Like, so if we have money in there and we're getting closer, do we use it the first year or two of college? Do we use it in the second half, the third and fourth year? When do we actually use the money, and when is it going to be accessible for us to take money out of it? So that's also part of the plan as well. Take a look at the allocations. Consider this. Some of you have plans that have what we call age-based funds. And those have been, what that means is that they're age-based funds. So the younger the student, the more aggressive by nature of the investment is. As it progresses through and the student gets older and closer to that 17, 18 years of age time frame, then the investments get more conservative. Okay. And so when you look at that, that's typically one fund. And so if the one fund is up, great. If the one fund is down, not so good when we need it the most. What we found out to be a good strategy and something that we would take a look and something for you to consider is that, okay, should we use one fund, or should we start to break it out a little bit into individual funds, accomplishing the same thing with risk, but now we get to cherry pick from different categories, if you will, based on what's happening. And now that might be a good idea. It's very specific to what you have going on, but if you want us to look at that for you, we certainly will, because there are some ideas behind that as well. What I'd like to do now is pass it over to Michael Birschbach, please. Actually, before I give it to Michael, I'm going to bring Ashley in for Ashley's acumen on the financials, and she has some great pieces for college students. Ashley.
Thank you, Ken. Yes, today I bring to you 5 practical ways for the college student, near and dear to you, of course, that you can share these tips with. So if you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen with everybody and talk about a couple of ways to save some money, again, without sacrificing that college experience that, of course, all the kids want and they should experience. So number 1 is to use that student ID because it comes along with a lot of discounts. This includes retailers, this includes restaurants, streaming services, even software for, of course, that new laptop or computer or device that they needed to go to school with. So again, encourage those students to ask about any student discounts with their college ID. Another option for them to save money is to, of course, put a budget together and track their spending before, of course, they leave for college. There's great free apps that include Mint, also like Pocket Guard. Again, free apps that your kids can utilize while they're away at school to, of course, limit that non-essential spending while they're at school. Of course, another way to save money is to use, buy used or digital textbooks. An option also includes using, of course, their bookstore on campus. They have a great used book section. And then even checking out a library that is nearby. A lot of the large campus libraries have a lot of these textbooks on site, so they can check them out for a duration of time that they need them, and then check them back in, of course, to avoid those fees. But using the library can also be a good way to save some money. And then, of course, hopefully you've sent them with some great life skills, but encourage them to maybe meal plan, make 5 meals and package them up, and then they can go home and heat it up very quickly and easily. So it encourages them to eat out less. And that's a great way to save some money. Public transportation, of course, or even using a bike or a scooter is another great way for kids to save money at college because they're avoiding those Ubers or Lyft, and those can get really pricey really quickly and, of course, add up fast. Another thing to just note, I don't have it listed on here, but remembering when you're going to school or thinking about doing those campus tours, in-state tuition, but also residency. A lot of schools have a lot of different options for what they count as residency on within their schools. So check into some of those different colleges that maybe not in your current state, but maybe some kids just have to get a driver's license and then they can get in-state tuition. So again, think about a couple of those ideas before committing to a school, but also while you're away at school, here's those 5 tips. Back to you, Ken. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashley. Appreciate that. So Bascom Hall there, University of Wisconsin. I love it there. Everybody knows probably that place. Everybody knows the Union Terrace, I believe it's called, where you get the ice cream and hang out, and all those special places at the University of Wisconsin. That's fantastic. So now when you say cooking themselves, Ashley, do you mean like warming up Hot Pockets and boiling water for ramen? Is that what you meant by cooking themselves? No, I'm just joking. But
They could probably get by on like at least spaghetti, bolognese, something.
all right, fair enough. Now, is Chipotle, is that eating in, or is that, no, I'm just joking. So absolutely, it kind of brings you back down memory lane. If you had a chance to go to college, it brings you back to some of those memories that we just talked about there. So all fun stuff. Thank you very much, Ashley. Appreciate the insight there. Some great saving tips there. Michael Birschbach, how about yourself?
Thank you, Ken. Talk about some of the benefits of starting early. It's no different than any other investing discussion on starting early, but one thing unique about college costs is they've actually outpaced general inflation measures for decades. So the cost of college is accelerating a whole lot faster than a lot of other things that we see. And obviously, if you're utilizing a 529 account, starting earlier is going to give you more tax-free growth. Even if cash flow is tight, small and consistent contributions are going to beat waiting till the very end and cramming, much like studying. And you're potentially eligible for a state tax deduction, as Mike has mentioned, as well as anybody can contribute to that account. So I recently worked with a client, want to just kind of share an example as far as how much should I save to fully fund college. So that at the time they had a 6-month-old child. They had $2,000 already saved to kind of start that plan. And we looked at public in-state tuition. We used UW Oshkosh, also known as Harvard of the Fox River. And the answer to that, to fully fund that all the way up until their 18th birthday, it was close to $400 a month that they needed to save and invest in an aggressive portfolio. So pretty significant cost when we look at fully funding college for one child. A popular idea, aiming for a third, as Ken has mentioned, saving for 1/3 of the cost of college, and we can help with those projections and calculations. In a 529 account, looking at cash flowing a third at the time when that child goes to college, paying for that almost out of pocket per se, and then having the person and their child attending college be responsible for the remaining third gives them that skin in the game is one idea we heard recently. There's many. If you want to talk through that and planning for that, please reach out to us. Everyone's situation, of course, is a little bit unique, and we're happy to help out. Back to you, Ken.
Thank you, Michael. Really appreciate that. Very, very helpful stuff there. Yeah, start early and often is really the key to some of this stuff as well. So what's really interesting right now is we're starting to see, before I bring on Lisa for the Gentian happenings for May and June coming up here, what's happening right now is, to my knowledge, and I'm being told by some of the admissions people that we know and talk to, some people that work at actual universities and technical schools, is that there's a little bit of a student demographic like lull right now. So coming up in a year or two, I believe, there's not going to be as many students going to college because of demographics that happened, 18 years ago, right? As far as families having children, how many children they had. There's actually a little bit of a lull coming up here, which makes it really interesting for the competitiveness of admissions. Now, when students apply for colleges, they typically apply to 3, 4, 5, sometimes 12, 15. Now, when you're meeting with the admissions, area of the college and the person there, always ask for more. There's always more, if you will. So there's typically a package that gets presented to you, and say, okay, here's what the college can do for you. There's always more, because it's a starting point for the college. And right now, it depends on what college it is. Some are very high in demand, so maybe negotiation isn't really an opportunity. But some of the more local ones, there probably is more of a way to negotiate some of this. Hey, by the way, over here, I got this over here. They're offering this at this college. Can you do something like that here as well? So there's always a little bit more than what's being offered. So just keep that in mind, because competitive enrollment is going to be a thing here pretty soon in the next year or two, especially with some of the local colleges. I mean, we saw some of the colleges around this area. One actually closed. It kind of shocked some people, but it closed. It actually doesn't even exist anymore. You take a look at the other ones around the area. Competitiveness is going to be a thing to try to get students to come there. Now, if they're looking for students to come there, that's a negotiation. That's a bartering tool for you as well. So keep that in mind as we go. So last but not least, let's bring on Lisa Sheridan for the Gentian happenings. Lisa, let us know what's going on.
All right. Thank you, Ken. Thank you, guys. Okay, so today we have the ladies in Gentian, the garden pairings at 10:30 today at the Doty Farm. RSVP was requested, so we are all set with the people coming. Just wanted to mention that that is going to be on the agenda for today for the ladies in Gentian, which should be fun. A nice rainy day for that, planting. And then on Wednesday, June the 18th, we have our June birthday club. So the luncheon, it opens at noon. So we have sent invites out, and you can RSVP here by 6/11 and get those birthday lunches here with all of us. It's always fun to see everybody. And then talking about starting young with the 529 plan, on June the 25th, we have our kids finance camp. This is the second one that we are doing. So kids from age 7 to 14. So definitely starting young there with the planning. But that's always fun. So we have our RSVP for that also. And that would be on June 25th, 9:30 to 12:30. And then just running a little bit further out, we have our next Health and Wealth on August the 27th. And that's all about muscle medicine. So that should be fun too. And that's at 9 a.m. Again, you can register in the emails that we send out. And then again, another one of our favorite events that we do is the Shred event. And that's out in September. September the 8th, we're going to be having that. And that again is at the Doty Farm. So another fun event that I know clients love bringing all their paperwork to, and all those applications and 529s that they don't get in, we can just put them in the shredding. So there you go. So we should be all set. But that's about it for now. So hopefully we'll see some of you at one of these events.
Lisa, very good. Thank you very much. We love those events. Look forward to seeing you. Please RSVP. It's a fun way to engage with each other and have a nice conversation. So thank you, Lisa, for all that. Appreciate that. So here's something here's one more joke here. I have to say one more. I've been talking to the daughter about college. She's gonna be 14, so it's kind of starting to come up again. 8th grade, it's starting to happen right now. And I said, college would open up a lot of doors for you. And ever since I told her that, now she leaves all of them open, and I pay the heating bill actually. Anyway, so on a serious note, hopefully we've said a few things today where you learn something and maybe take a small nugget or two away, or an idea here and there. Again, if you have questions specifically about your scenario, reach out to us. We stand ready to help you and build that and craft that plan for yourself and your family. So on a serious note, we want to thank you very much for your continued trust and confidence in us. We appreciate this. We really enjoy being on your team. We enjoy being on the journey with you of retirement or college planning, whatever we're doing at the time together. But we look at the family wealth planning. We really enjoy being on that journey with you. So thank you for your continued trust and confidence. We appreciate it. Thank you also for the introductions to people that you love and care about. It really keeps Gentian going in a great way. We don't have to be marketing. We don't have to have billboards and things of that nature. We can spend all of our time with you. And that's the way we like it. And that's the way we appreciate you for the work that you do to introduce us to great people that you know. So thank you very much for that. From our headquarters here in Mequon, Wisconsin, we appreciate you. We hope you have a great rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.